Well, hey everyone. So welcome back to the fifth and a very special installment of Discussions, where we give you guys an update on when we're working on discussions, as well as cover some story on Discussions.app, except for this week. We're not going to do a Discussions.app update. Instead, we have very special guests. And co-hosting this very special episode with me is John, the founder of Boid, a decentralized computing platform. You want to say hi, John?
Hey, how's it going, Jack?
I am doing fine. And our special guest that just double and numbered, we have Daniel Keys, we have Nate Hindman, head of growth at Bancor, and Daniel Keys, CEO at EOS Nation. We also have Denis, the CTO of EOS Nation, and Asaf which is the GM of Bancor Protocol. So if you want to quickly say hello, everyone.
Hey.
Hey guys.
Cool. So yeah, I wanted to have you guys on to talk about a very special project that you guys put out this last week, and that is xNation, and that's a collaboration between EOS Nation and Bancor. So before we get to that, do you guys want to, Nate and SF, do you want to quickly go over what Bancor is, and then we have Denis and Daniel go over what EOS Nation is?
Yeah, sure. I can give a little background on Bancor. Bancor has been around since late 2017. It's a decentralized exchange protocol. So that means you can use it to perform token trades, or you can stake tokens on Bancor in exchange for trading fees. So anyone can list a token on Bancor by just creating a liquidity pool for that token. This pool then performs on-chain trades, which generate a fee for any users staking inside the pool. So this means that you don't have to be technical to create a market for a token or to provide liquidity to a token. And that's really the mission of Bancor, to serve as a kind of public exchange infrastructure where token projects and traders have easy access to this kind of new form of constant on-chain liquidity. And I guess lastly, it's just worth pointing out that this is different than other decentralized exchanges where liquidity is sourced from a kind of small number of professional market makers. On Bancor, liquidity is literally sourced from thousands of unaffiliated users. And we think this kind of community source liquidity can really fundamentally alter how token projects operate.
Awesome. So yeah, I personally have known Bancor for a very long time. It's one of the really exciting projects that I don't think gets enough love from the general public. I think the token projects use it a lot. Definitely know a lot of token projects use the protocol to help improve their liquidity. So it's great to finally have the chance to talk to you guys. Okay, and EOS Nation. So Denis and Daniel, you want to give us a rundown on what EOS Nation is?
Sure. Yeah. Daniel here. I'm the COO of EOS Nation. Like you said, we've been a block producer on EOS since the launch of the mainnet, and been around as an organization a little while before that, pretty much since day one of when EOS became a public known thing. We got involved into the community. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we're a top 21 block producer currently. And our mission is to build tools and resources for the community to help EOS thrive and build communities kind of armed with the tools to really thrive in the EOS.io ecosystem. And in relation to the xNation portal that you mentioned, we've been partnering with Bancor, and Bancor has been kind enough to provide us with a grant to help fund the development of a UI that we're building to help expand access to these liquidity pools, to make it easier for people to create their own pools, to trade tokens, and any average person can go there and swap tokens, or add liquidity to a pool to start earning a piece of the fees generated by that pool.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Denis, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Denis. I'm the CTO at EOS Nation. I'm more in charge of the technology and all the new tools that we want to build at EOS Nation. And one of the really exciting tools that we wanted to build was with Bancor, this xNation portal. And it's really to open up the sort of landscape of liquidity pools on EOS. But at the same time, a lot of the liquidity pools are currently on Ethereum. So we've also built the integration with Ethereum and EOS. And Bancor has a sort of a cross-chain IBC connection between Ethereum and EOS. So it's really good token to bring onto EOS to build liquidity pools, because you can go back and forth between the different chains. And soon we'll be also integrating other chains as well, because the smart contracts are open source, they're public. Any chain can actually deploy sort of a Bancor protocol, and we'll be really happy to integrate different chains. The next one that's on the radar, I'm pretty sure it's public, it'll be Wax. So Wax will be integrating, I think it's public, maybe, yeah. It is now then.
No, it is. We got
good
the thumbs
work
up
on
from
outing it out.
But all to say is that a lot of this technology are open source, and anyone can deploy it. So using, let's say, if you have a fork of a chain, all the smart contracts for Bancor are open and public, so anyone can deploy it. And then there's a few tweaks and stuff. So we're really happy to work with this project. And I think adding liquidity pools just helps smaller projects sort of initialize their first sort of exchange pool. If the project backs their project with BNT, it means that that's value, and the free market will determine what that price is. It's a really elegant solution, and big fan of liquidity pools.
And I noticed Boid and you guys Discussions with your Atmos token are some of the early adopters of the portal, already deploying your own pool. So that's really awesome to see.
Yeah, I mean, John led the charge with Asaf helping him, and then once I saw it, I was like, this is fantastic, because again, like you're saying, our smaller projects, we always have problem with liquidity. Like we have a huge spread on new decks at the moment, and it just puts off buyers and sellers just because they feel like they're getting cheated either way. Either they're buying at a premium or they're selling at a loss. So having a tool like the Bancor protocol to help close that gap would be fantastic. But we're getting too deep. I want to make sure that everyone listening kind of have a general idea what you guys are doing. So yeah, Daniel, I heard you briefly mention you guys got a grant from Bancor. And I know Bancor has been, EOS Nation is a founder BP of EOS mainnet, obviously, but also with the Bancor core team. Previously Benny and Tao, the former core team, they launched Liquid EOS, which is also a founder member. So there's always been a strong Bancor present in the EOS mainnet. So how did that kind of history accumulated in this project, and how did the grant come into the picture?
So Bancor as a core team is sort of in charge of building the protocol layer, in addition to kind of other ecosystem developers. And the Bancor.network portal was really a sort of proof of concept to ensure that users could trade effectively against this new technology, which are liquidity pools or automated market makers. And so it really, post sort of MVP and post proof of concept at Bancor.network, the core team has really decided to focus on ensuring that the protocol level, that the automated market maker primitive is optimized to offer the best prices and to allow liquidity providers to stake and get the best returns. And we really are expecting that the application layer and the aggregation layer is going to be built by third-party developers who want to have access to this new liquidity model. And so Bancor has opened up a grant program. I think it was roughly 3 or 4 months ago, and EOS Nation was one of our first grant recipients, because they're just very effective application builders. Also, up and down the stack and the blockchain layer could really put all the pieces together. And these third-party portals like xNation that EOS Nation was able to build are really kind of the next generation of interfaces that will utilize this protocol, Bancor protocol, and this new type of technology. So EOS Nation was one of the first grant recipients, and we're very excited to have them really leading the charge on EOS to expand access to adding liquidity and to trading against these pools.
Mm-hmm. And
I think it was a pretty natural partnership. We got to know each other just as you mentioned. The Bancor team has been involved in the EOS ecosystem from the very beginning, just like us. So we see the work that each of our teams are doing and collaborating on things like some of their members launched the DApp network, and we were one of the first DSPs and launched the winning DSP portal and had products out like the EOS Detective, which were all things kind of work hand in hand with this sort of thing. That's kind of how I think we really got connected and started partnering on this.
Mm-hmm. So how did I mean, I'm sure like this is a very useful tool for projects in general, but like was there any specific point that like, oh, well, we gotta, was there any project in particular that you guys like, well, this project could really use it to kind of get them kickstarted?
Well, I don't think it's any particular project, but coming with a smart contract. So a lot of the smart contracts that are deployed, or you can have an amazing smart contract and you can have it deployed on EOS, but if there's no user interface that makes the user be able to use it and leverage it in its maximum capacity, it won't be used as much. So one of the things is that the Bancor relays, the upgraded version, has been out available for 2 months or so. But a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to wait for the user interface to be available so that it's easier for users to onboard, create tokens, create liquidity, add or remove liquidity. And without these portals, there's not a lot of usability. So we want to really make sure that everyone, like I think Seth was the power tester. He's like, it doesn't work. It's just still in beta. So we really want to get that feedback from the community to make it as easy as possible to create, pools. And once you have people creating different pools, then you actually open up and see the value of that smart contract, because you can actually have many, many different user interfaces. Ours is just one of them, but you can have 3, 4, 5 different user interfaces created from different teams and showing maybe different statistics. So I think this is just one of many portals that will come, and then everyone is essentially pointing to that liquidity, that single liquidity pool, so that everyone can maximize. All the liquidity is pooled into that smart contract, and then you have multiple user interfaces interacting. So it's really beautiful to see that you can have many websites all point to the same logic.
Well, this is the change. This is what the blockchain is actually introducing to the world, right? The fact that you don't need a centralized server and you only have one front end interacting with that back end, so to speak. Now that we deploy the smart contracts, anyone can create their own ecosystem surrounding that and benefit the smart contract level behind it. So as Denis mentioned, really the fact that you can have multiple interfaces pointing at the same liquidity pool and the same network and adding usability to the same core essence, this is really the ecosystem that we're trying to build, and this is where the grant program came to life. The fact that we can focus more on the blockchain level execution and have multiple developers, multiple teams working on different front ends and making the different utilities that they're thinking that can that can be more beneficial for the end user. This is really the type of game that we want to play, and this is the type of ecosystem that we want to build together.
I know for sure that I'm planning at something to integrate with the liquidity pools to something on Discussions. I won't say too much details, but this is very great. And I want to kind of jump into exactly how the liquidity pools work. And I know this is probably not new. It's maybe not news for some people who are listening, but when I found out, I think this is amazing, is that anyone could contribute to liquidity pool now. Because I know for the longest time, at least on Bancor and Ethereum, it was just, the liquidity pool was just there. You couldn't contribute to it. But now having this opportunity that anyone, so even like average Atmos token holders, if they want to add liquidity to it, they could do so, and they're incentivized to do it. And that's the most beautiful part. So do you guys want to maybe give a little bit more clarity on how this works? Because I'm not the best person to explain it.
like you said, there's an incentive for people to add liquidity to existing pools because a percentage of each trade that the pool processes is redeposited back into the liquidity pool. When someone adds liquidity to a pool, they generate these things called pool tokens. And as trading fees are redeposited back into the pool, the price of these pool tokens rises. And you can always sell your pool tokens back to the pool contract to realize your gains. So that's kind of very simplified version of how the incentive model works.
Could you clarify when you say the price of the token pool rises, what do you mean? Because you're not actually selling the pool token, right? You're kind of exchanging it for the collateral, is my understanding of how to describe it.
Yeah, so the fees actually accrue in the value of the pool token. So as it generates more fees, the price of the pool token will go up. And when you're selling the pool token as a pool token holder, you're actually withdrawing liquidity or the liquidity you held in that pool. Does that answer your question?
I think what you're saying is correct, but maybe the nomenclature is confusing to many people. If you say the price, like you make it sound like the pool token has like a price and is traded like any other token, when really it's more of like it's almost kind of like a stable coin with like some kind of a collateral backing behind it, right?
Yeah, I'd say that's a decent parallel to draw.
Well, it's not. To be honest,
it's more like a POU, isn't it? Like, because you have those tokens and you kind of redeem it back for the Bancor and whatever other token you deposited.
Yeah, pool token is actually the best way we've come to realize in terms of identifying your share of the pool. So basically, you receive a token for your staking. The tokens that you stake in the pool, this represent your share eventually. And when Nate mentioned the fact that you can return or exchange your share of the pool tokens with some kind of a fee gain, basically what he means is that with time, fees are being accumulated in the different reserves in the pool. And then when you try to liquidate your share of the pool, the conversion rate or the amount of the reserve tokens that you receive are expected to be higher than what you started off with. So the fees are actually being accumulated there.
And the pool tokens, when they're sold, are burned, right? So when you add liquidity, they're minted, and when they're sold back to the contract, the pool tokens are burned.
Yeah, I just thought it'd be good to pull up because like we're all talking about in an abstract and like just pull off the UI a little bit. So yeah, I mean, so you would, I would add, I add Atmos token. So you can see here is my pool tokens. So, and if I want to add liquidity, I'll get more. Let's say I want to add more liquidity, even though I didn't put in an amount. So that's probably not going to work. So let me recheck that transaction. Yeah, so add in my amount, and then that will give me extra liquidity pool tokens. And if I want to remove it, I'll send back in the liquidity pool tokens and get my proportional amount of tokens I have placed as collateral, essentially, or get it back. So
yeah, and these tokens are transferable. So this is like the one thing that you didn't mention before. Basically, if you'd like, you can buy them or like stake tokens and mint these pool tokens, and you can transfer them to anyone you want.
What would be the incentive for that to kind of?
Well, it's just the fact that these tokens can be used in different secondary markets if needed. It's not something that we have like an immediate plan for, but it's just an indication that it's a standard token in that sense that it represents your share of the pool, but it also keeps the standards of the token ecosystem, and it's not breaking anything else.
And you don't necessarily have to remove the liquidity to realize your gains. You could just transfer your ownership of your shares to someone else and realize those gains while keeping the liquidity.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was just an accounting tool, but it is actually a proper token that could be transferred just like any other token.
And another benefit too is, let's say you have a cold wallet and an active wallet. If you wanted to have, a small amount of pool tokens in your hot wallet, and then in your cold wallet where you need to go into a vault and find this secret passcode, you can put larger significant amount of pool tokens in your cold wallet. So you can send those tokens to any account for whatever use case.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, very cool, very cool. So again, like here's the UI. If you haven't go check it out, definitely go check it out. Very easy to use. You have your traditional converting to two tokens, and then again, this is like the part that's super interesting is that you could create your own. No, you could add liquidity to any of these pools. So like if you are just a big Atmos holder or a Boid holder, and you just you don't want to do anything with token, but you want to provide the liquidity, you can actually get fees from it. So it's a great way to kind of support the project without buying more token or selling more token. You just have it there to help support the ecosystem and get paid. And then lastly, obviously you create your own token. I've already done this for another discussions partner, MPT. So you could just any of these tokens, you could just click on it and you create your own liquidity pool. That brings us to the question that I have, which is, from what I understand right now, you could only create one token pool for a specific token. Isn't it kind of an attack vector? Let's say I created a token for a very popular project, and because I kind of have the sole ownership of that token pool, doesn't that create a problem if I set up like a very high fee?
Well,
if you have a high fee, then not a lot of people will use it, right? Because they'll see the fee. Right now, how we have it organized is you can actually set up, if you wanted to create two different pools, one with a lower fee, one with a higher fee, but people will be attracted to high liquidity, low fees.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if your fees are too high, people just won't use it. So you're essentially just sitting duck. You got a bunch of liquidity locked up and nobody wants to use it because there's maybe a 3% fee, and people don't think that that's reasonable. So they just won't trade. And essentially the users will dictate that this fee is too high.
Also,
you won't have any traffic.
You can't create multiple pools for the same token.
Yeah, our UI will prevent that, just so that it's a little bit easier, so that way you're not creating another pool with the same token. Mm-hmm. But if you go in the back end, you could create another pool. Let's say you're the honest broker and you want to create that pool with a lower fee. You could set up competing liquidity pools. Mm-hmm. And currently how we have it is that we're going to be sorting it by the one with the highest liquidity. Mm-hmm. So if there is competing pools, we'll probably try to add that logic to find sort of how a Uniswap works. Mm-hmm. Is if there is multiple pools with multiple different fees, at one point when we do have that scenario, we're going to try to price, find the best deal and find the best relay for that particular trade. And that's kind of how Uniswap and a lot of these Ethereum dexes is you aggregate all the liquidity pools together and then you find which one has the best deal or which one has the best price, let's say, and then you trade against that pool.
Basically what we're trying to achieve is the deepest pool possible. So based on a different combination of tokens and settings, we would like to get most of the, if not all of the liquidity in a single pool, because it serves a purpose. At the end of the day, liquidity pool is a mechanism designed for conversions, and it's always available for handling any required conversion that is coming across. This is the first intent of the liquidity pools. Second thing is obviously to get the most amount of traffic and therefore resulting in the best fees and possible yield for liquidity providers. So they all have the same benefit of adding liquidity to the same pool together in order to achieve these two goals. At Bancor, on the Ethereum side of Bancor, basically we are restricting to a single pool with identical settings. So if we have two tokens with 50% and the same like constant like combination of elements, then we will not allow another pool, identical pool, to join the network. But if you change something, if you change the ratio, the reserve ratio, if you change anything of the settings, then you'll be able to add another pool and play this game of optimization, where we're trying to get most of the activity into your pool and your conversions to win over the others. I think the same thing goes for EOS. And by the way, it's just it's also a matter of complexity. Bancor is at this point one of the more complex solutions and robust solutions out there. And for simplicity reasons, we want to have like a single pool in that sense with an identical setting, because we don't want to try and get into a competition of pathfinding simply because it's too expensive to execute it on the blockchain. So that's it.
I see. Yeah,
Sure.
I think.
And most of the liquidity providers, so let's say there's two teams that want to add liquidity for the same token. Most likely scenario is they'd like to actually team up together so that they have the largest depth and largest liquidity pool. So it's the most likely scenario is that the pools will essentially aggregate together, and because you're kind of doing it as a team, right? And usually a large liquidity pool will attract more volume and attract more trades. So it would be the most likely scenario is that, you know, people with the same tokens would want to join in the same pool.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I think that's actually one of the questions that John had regarding the Uniswaps. So did that answer your question, John?
Well, in that sense, if we do mention Uniswap in this conversation, and basically what they've done is that they restricted to one pool per token up till now, and I think the V2 that they're releasing is expanding this into any token to any token, but they're still restricting it to a single pair. So identical pair will only exist once. And fees across the entire network are set predetermined to 0.3%. So they don't have that flexibility that we have. They don't support most of the different features that we have. And that's one part simplicity and one part like restriction. So we see the value in Bancor in the sense that you have more freedom to create your own design and decide if you want to do it a 50-50 or you want to do it like a fractional reserve, or even set the fees and change the fees when needed.
I see. Okay, well, I think that's kind of a lot of we went pretty deep into it to the point where I feel a little bit lost, to be honest. I think if we continue on this rabbit hole, we kind of go into the Bancor algorithm, but I'm sure that's a great conversation, but I'll be lost. But before I let you guys go, I kind of want to ask you guys, what do you think the future of DeFi is? Because you guys been in this space for so long. And then to add on to that, to include the EOS part of it, is for EOS Nation, how do you guys see DeFi playing out on EOS?
So I'd like to start and basically mention some of the vision that Bancor has. Bancor sees token swapping and the token utility as something that is greater and bigger than a specific blockchain. So our vision throughout the day was always the same, that we need a utility called token in order to serve a specific purpose of automated market making. And it doesn't have to exist only on a specific blockchain or this or the other. It's a cross-blockchain solution that can exist and be deployed on any smart contract supporting blockchain. And this is where EOS Nation and xNation comes to play. The fact that we can source developers from different blockchains to integrate with this type of system and ecosystem and expand the DeFi outside of a specific blockchain into a multiple blockchain ecosystem, this is how I see and Bancor sees the future of DeFi as something that is greater than a specific blockchain in a sense.
Mm-hmm. And for EOS, Daniel Denis?
Go ahead, Denis.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So for EOS, I mean, it's still a new chain, and there's still not too much liquidity yet compared to, let's say Ethereum. But where I see EOS going for the DeFi space is really the micro payments and that flexibility, that smart contract flexibility is really powerful on EOS. The only issue is the liquidity is still new. So let's say if we look at Tether, there's millions and millions of Tether on Ethereum and USDC and USDT, all sorts of different tokens. On EOS, it's still very new. So I think where I see DeFi moving really quickly on EOS is having those stable tokens deployed. So right now we already have EOS DT. Bancor also has USDB, and that's sort of gaining steam. And hopefully we can see more liquidity pools that are stable to stable. So a lot of people like that stability, that you can actually create a pool. And I think Bancor has a pool right now with USDB and EOS DT. So we're going to see on EOS more of the stable to stable liquidity pools. And on Ethereum, it's also very popular too. There's a lot of big pools that are stable token driven.
Yeah.
But EOS is really quick and it's really fast. You can do a lot of micro transactions. So just an example, our proxy reward for our voter proxy reward processes about 3,000 to 5,000 transactions a day. If we had to pay the gas fee for that on Ethereum, we would go broke just paying gas fees. So EOS is really good at doing small micro transactions for a really relatively low cost. So if someone had a use case for that, it can even be doing Oracle speeds. So last week we had an issue with MakerDAO on Ethereum where the oracles couldn't push because it was too expensive for gas. People would have to pay $50, $200 just to put a price feed. So EOS has that throughput to push a lot of transactions at really low cost, so much that it's cluttering a little bit the network, but that's the side effect of having that throughput. But price oracles are really reliable on EOS because you can push a lot of transactions, which then makes automated market makers a little bit easier to do on-chain market making. And yeah, there's a lot of, I would say that EOS has the capability of pushing a lot of transactions for low cost. And if your use case is micro payments, that's the edge that EOS has.
Cool. Yeah, there's been a lot of stable coins popping up in EOS, and
there is.
It's interesting.
It's very. So I think the technology is growing on EOS, but the liquidity hasn't followed. Yeah. And so there's a lot of people that are exploring ideas, and a lot of people. I think Vigor hasn't launched yet, but they've got also a stable token concept. So there's a lot of ideas. There's a lot of technology being built. So we're still at the foundation. Next part is liquidity. That has to come in after. So looking forward to see that come in. But I think we're in the foundation, and hopefully we can see more projects in the.
And with things like xNation now, we've provided an opportunity to a wider group of people to be able to provide that liquidity and take a piece of the profits that come from that trading.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, stable to stable is an amazing use case of liquidity pools, because people look for a solution that has 100% gain, like no loss in all gain. That's like the desire of every investor in the world, I would say, in that sense. And stable to stable liquidity pools provide that safety net behind the scenes. It's a utility for a specific use case. And you see a lot of new designs popping around for this type of use case. But keep in mind that if eventually all the tokens are stable and pegged to $1, then the ecosystem is not that interesting. Bancor liquidity pools are designed to support any type of token, volatile or not. And this is how we see things moving forward. And it's a great trend. It's a great use case, stable to stable. But I think the future is beyond that point of stable to stable into something more interesting, something that might be able to reduce the volatility or the risk in tokens, but still at the same time be able to support volatile assets in that case.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and with that, we're gonna take a small break, and Bancor is gonna sign off. So you could
I do
definitely.
have one more question.
Oh, sorry, John. Go ahead.
I was wondering about the Bancor DAO that I was reading about is launching. Is that, I assume that's going to be on Ethereum first, and so is there a roadmap to see that on EOS? And also, could you participate in the DAO governance with tokens that you have deposited into a liquidity pool?
So the Bancor DAO will be cross-chain as well. Anyone will, basically the core function, at least at first, of the DAO is to determine the level of inflation introduced to BNT, which will be distributed to users who stake liquidity in pools on Bancor. So if you are a holder of a pool token, then you'll be able to participate in the DAO, whether that's on EOS or Ethereum, and you will also be able to dictate, which areas of the network receive Bancor inflation and at which rate, and that those staking rewards funded through BNT inflation and voted on by the DAO will also go to EOS pools potentially, and so that'll increase ROI for anyone kind of adding liquidity to a pool through this staking rewards.
Yeah, as you can imagine, DAO is something that is a growing trend and solution throughout this year. We've been discussing this over the last few months. It's something that is on our roadmap to become to turn into a DAO in that sense. And we are looking for different alternative and solutions that can help us manage this type of ecosystem. At this point, to be honest, some of the solutions we've encountered are very premature. They're still very early stage in their solution infrastructure, I would say. And the ones that we do work with and test are still trying to build some type of a single blockchain solution, and they're still not fully ready for multi-blockchain solution. Yes, we are looking at multi-blockchain because we exist on multiple blockchains, but this is part of the discussion and evolution that will have to come into play because I think Bancor at this stage is one of the only projects out there that is really looking at the ecosystem as something that is unified. And regardless of the blockchain you're in, we can bridge it and connect it. Not every solution out there sees the ecosystem in the same way. I think most of the people on Ethereum, for that matter, they look at the ecosystem and they say it's either Ethereum or nothing. Mm-hmm. We kind of differ from them in that perspective, and this is why we do get to work with guys like EOS Nation and other companies and the Wax team in that sense, because we do believe that there's more than the single blockchain.
I see.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so basically you guys have been exploring the existing on-chain governance solutions and you haven't found a good fit for cross-chain governance. That would be quite innovative for sure. I can't think of one that is like a cross-chain DAO.
Yeah, it's not easy to even grasp it in a single blockchain, nonetheless with multiple blockchains. So it's a challenge for sure.
Well, maybe Bancor would, maybe one day when you guys have some time, you develop your own solution since you guys are already on all these different blockchains.
Well, maybe we'll give a grant, and maybe the guys at EOS Nation will be able to pull it off.
Yeah, I mean, I don't doubt that.
It is on the roadmap, but it's going to be a complicated one. And
it is.
And I think for governance, it's also figuring out, if you know that your token lives in multiple different blockchains, what are the parameters and what are the voting rights that you're giving to your token holders? So as long as the scope is within reason, and I think Bancor is really well positioned. They've got a lot of good ideas coming for this. It can be achieved on multiple blockchains. It's really dependent on what are you voting for. Are you voting on inflation? Are you voting on pools? As long as it makes sense that you can deploy that logic or that governance on multiple chains, and then the token is that voice, I think they can pull it off. But I won't ruin their surprise. I'm sure it's in the works, and I'm sure there's a lot of discussion on how to implement this. But I think if there's one team that can pull it off, it will be Bancor for sure.
Well, you heard it first, so look forward to that. Cross-chain DAOs coming to you from Bancor.
Cross-chain DAO.
It's my speculation.
Yeah.
Okay, so
that'd be very interesting.
Sorry, someone was talking?
No, John was saying it's very interesting. I mean, might as well, if you're going to do a DAO, might as well create a cross-chain DAO.
Yeah, why not?
Might as well.
Okay, so where can people find out more about Bancor? Where can people find more about xNation?
So for Bancor, the best way to get in direct touch with us and everyone, all the developers like EOS Nation that are hacking on Bancor, it's on Telegram on our at Bancor developers, and then also on Twitter at Bancor, and yeah, those are probably the two best places.
Cool.
And you can find the xNation portal at xNation.io or the EOS Nation website to see everything else we're working on. That's EOSNation.io. We're on Twitter. We're on Telegram. If you search EOS Nation, you'll find us. Facebook. We're pretty much anywhere you can think of, we'll be there.
Cool. So so thank you so much, Nate and Asaf, for coming on. And if you're still listening to this point, I have a surprise for you guys. So if you're listening to this on YouTube and you type xNation rocks and then you add your EOS account name, Discussions will be airdropping some BNT tokens to you. So stay tuned. We're going to take a small break and then we're going to come back with EOS Nation to go a little bit into the newly announced worker proposal system they and Adder Lab have been working on. So thank you very much, Nate. Thank you very much, Asaf. Thank you guys for coming on.
Thanks for having us.